My grandma, she's the only one in the family that doesn't want to sell the family house. Guys, we just got a record-breaking offer on it, and everyone's saying, sell it, we need the money. But she's trying to convince us we grew up there. And yes, I understand there's sentimental value, but the house is falling apart. And the people that want to buy it, they want the land. And they're offering so much money. So we're going to have to do something about it, even if it's something sinister. My family history is somewhat complicated. I never knew my father. My mother, she passed away when I was 11. So I lived and was raised in the old family house. A huge 2-story home with a large yard, where one time, better days, the older people say, there were crops. Now it's just a useless pile of weeds, and I was raised with my grandmother. I call her Mom and her 2 sisters, and the 3 had quite opposite personalities. One was carefree, sunflowers, birds, puppies, and the other was very religious, making us go to church every religious Sunday. You know, the oldest, Mom, was the grumpiest. She was always complaining about something, and on more than one occasion she had run-ins with her sister over silly things that she sometimes made up. Among the cousins, we would say that everyone in the family had argued with her at least once. Even the babies, and every time this happened, we would have the inside joke that she was, quote, recharging her batteries, since she lived on hate as her fuel. It was something that made us laugh out loud, but as a rare thing, not her. She just kept scolding the grandchildren or whoever was in our way. Many people wonder how I managed to grow up with her, and my answer is always the same. It was not easy. Had it not been for my other 2 aunts to balance the scales, I feel I would have ended up throwing myself off the 2nd floor. It wasn't until I was 20 that I was able to get out of there, move out of state, and live in a residency to study, and I did it for a long time. I graduated later than I thought due to various factors, and in the meantime, one of my grandmothers, the religious ones, passed away. It was a very bitter time, but nothing compared to only 6 months later, when my other grandmother, the chill one, followed the same path. They were perhaps the grayest years of our lives because she was the opposite of Mama. Cheerful, friendly, talkative, and playful, more so than any of us. But despite what one might think, Mama was not affected by this in the least. Oh, the contraire. She decided to look on the bright side of the situation and thought that now she could have a little more peace and quiet, without her sisters who might be nagging her. Although it sounds very abrupt and she never said it explicitly, I feel it was like that. I don't deny that she's sad and suffers inside. We're talking about her 2 younger sisters leaving before her, but after all this, I'm telling you, she adopted a more stoic attitude and closed up with everyone in the family. When we spent the holidays at the old house, she was the member who felt the least present, even though she was the primary resident. Her nieces, her nephews, and grandchildren tried to cheer her up, but it was all to no avail. All she wanted was to be left alone, complaining about the plumbing, the porcelain tiles, the, quote, ceiling that's about to fall in, don't you see it, and not answering messages, and that's why I've come to write this to you guys today. So, let me explain. I work in a construction company. We're in charge of evaluating spaces and organizing everything for remodeling or even home construction. A service that, although it may not sound like it, it's usually very profitable since those who pay for the service are usually people with great economic wealth. That's why I've managed to meet a lot of influential faces in the area, waiting for a golden opportunity like the one that happened to us. I met a businessman, let's just call him Ferguson, who knew of me from my family house, being one of the most well-known places in the area. He told me he was a little embarrassed to come out of the blue to the house to give his proposal, so meeting me was a pleasant surprise. He just asked me if, we weren't interested in selling the property, which encompassed a not-so-inconsiderable amount of acreage. I told him that we were not currently in the consideration, although the house was only being occupied by our grandmother, who had no plans to move either. It was then that the negotiations began, and the first proposal that he gave us was not humble at all. It was a lot of zeros, that's all I can say. Well, he said that for years he's been looking for areas in the state that were perfect for creating industrial plants. He specializes in agriculture and natural products and, having scopes that allow him to have a national or even international projection. Anyways, he asked me to talk about it, but I told him that only my grandmother lived there and that I would talk to her about the proposal. Everything went wrong with that, and when I told her about it, Mama just said, "Over my dead body, some son of a gun will have and own this land. I grew up here. I raised your mother and my nieces, saw grandchildren born here, and they all slept in the same room at some point in their lives, so I'm not interested in his stupid offer." Well, I'll leave you a copy of how the conversation I had went with her. I told her that she's always complaining about the place. From the amenities to the structure of the house, why not take advantage of it and let Mr. Ferguson buy it? He's offering us too much for what is old of a ranch. To which she said, "Ranch? Watch your mouth, boy. A house is priced, but the home is not. I don't care if he offers me $1 billion. I'm not moving from here. Besides, where would I live next?" Well, at the house of one of our uncles or aunts. Indeed, I might even take you into my own home. These were big words since I wasn't looking forward to having her back by my side, but believe me when I tell you that the figure they were offering us was very tempting. She still said no. So I asked what would happen if my aunt and uncle said that they did want to sign over their parts to Mr. Ferguson. She said, well, they would be wasting their time because it simply would not matter because my sister never left wills, and anyways, being the oldest, I'm the sole owner of the home. Mama, please, that money can be divided amongst the whole family. You know my cousin Sharon just gave birth to a baby boy, and they could use that extra money. What's more, if you want, you can have half of it. For that very reason, you say you're the major owner. Ugh, but silly boy, aren't you getting it? This is not a question of money, it's a matter of principle. Principle of what? If you just keep complaining that someday the roof is going to fall on you, and wouldn't that be pretty, would it? No. Oh, that man just wants money by polluting the world. Well, I won't say she's entirely wrong, because even the most eco-friendly farm has several cows that can cause as much more damage to the ozone layer than a pipe that blows smoke. Well, I was already warming up to the conversation. I was getting absolutely nowhere. It was like talking to a stone wall, a very whiny, senile one. I've wanted to talk about this with the family, but I feel that if I do, everybody will come down on Mama. And although it hurts my soul, she's the one who has the final say. I think the second most bitter and difficult part of all this is telling Mr. Ferguson that the house is not available. I thought he would be saddened, raise the offer, or consider looking elsewhere, and from what I could understand from our last conversation, I may not be surprised that he's already considered it. He hasn't said anything yet, and I haven't been past the startup report, at least not from him, but to have left the opportunity slip away, it seriously makes me feel terrible. I could suddenly agree with Mom and not sell the house because of the emotional and family aspect. If she didn't always complain about everything, it's so repetitive and stupid. She carried this fighting on about everything in somewhat internal of a way, but when it already affects the rest of the family, it goes to a more serious level. I don't understand how a woman with, quote, years of wisdom and experience can become so obtuse. To be honest, I'm about to call a family meeting, an intervention of sorts. What do you think? Well, what I fear is that of all the family members, I'm the closest to her. Not even my aunts and uncles are that close, and if I can't have an effect, they won't move a finger on her. I'm just sure I'll cause up a stir in the family, but it's not my fault that women is so stubborn. My Uncle Bill is a lawyer, and I'm sure that he can help us devise a way that we can beat Mama to the punch. With the money, the grandkids can go to college, and if Mama's so concerned about comfort, she can buy a small apartment with it. That way she doesn't have to climb the stairs and leave rooms going dusty, which is what's happening to the house. The place is deteriorating precisely because she's not taking enough care of it. The structure's not designed for one person. It's not even designed for 4 or 5. It's an old building. It has 8 rooms, 2 bathrooms downstairs, 1 upstairs, and another one in the form of a hut outside. The kitchen is huge, and it even has a vegetable patch. Tell me, what can a 75-year-old woman do with a vegetable patch? The answer is, ruin the possibility of helping the family and spoil a good place to live. Or at least produce... Well, I think I've written too much already. I'll write you guys in another week or so with some more updates, but I hope with all my heart that Mama just comes to her senses by then. Even if I have to nag her every day until she comes to her senses, I will. Update number 1, 1 week later. Gosh, I'm so tired. There was a meeting that we had with almost the whole family. No, rather, we were all there because even my aunt, who is on the other side of the country, was able to contact us via video call. Talking about the house. That's right. I told them about Ferguson's proposal, and everybody was stunned both by the amount of money Mama was turning down and the fact that she had not told anybody about it. So that's why I rounded up all the older members of the family. 2 uncles, 3 aunts, 13 nieces and nephews about, and me. All criticizing Mama's poor financial decision. She had first told everyone that she was not going to be a part of the discussion and that they were just wasting our time. And that was partly true because they did not say anything that I had not repeated before. The only one who sided with Mama was my aunt, who made the video call. According to her, Mama has every right to refuse, and it was the other grandmother's problem that they had not made wills so their children were in the majority and having the power. We seemed to be in a bottomless pit. But everything got even more complicated when Uncle Billy mentioned property rights to direct heirs, and I don't know what else in case there was no formal documentation from all the parties involved, those who remain de facto owners. That was precisely the same method that was used for Mama and her sisters when their parents passed away. They became de facto owners of the house with no paperwork involved. However, we were dealt a crushing blow by Mama herself, because apparently one day after I told her about the house, about a week ago, she calls her lawyer and they formalized the document, spoiling the only alternative that we had left. The old lady beat us to the punch. She managed to be more astute and was able to foresee our move. When Billy read the document, she said that unfortunately everything was in order, so she could say that she was the only owner of the house. Her word is law. Well, I feel we no longer will be able to enjoy the proposal, and what's worse, Mama got so mad. She said that since we like money so much and are leaving our home, she would be renting out the backyard and events and such. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. The way she wants to execute it is just terrible. She would only do it for people she knows and is interested in, something that's already in very short supply. Then she talked about fees for backyard usage, and believe me, it's not worth it. For a place covered in weeds and not being taken care of, please. Everyone in the family ended up getting mad at her to the point where they started removing the other grandmother's things. And even I, partly due to social pressure, removed the rest of my stuff as well, without even thinking about how I was going to arrange it inside of my apartment. Well, we left the house much emptier than before, and now it went from being a family place to just a bunch of empty rooms. Seriously, what has to happen for Mama to realize the mistake that she's making? And with the part of the family on her side, all they do is further entrench that stubborn thinking. Oh, something I had forgotten to comment on other than that. One of my cousins was about to be able to get married, using that backyard of the house on site for the party, but because of all this that's happened, decided to cancel the ceremony and pay for a site on the other side of town. Well, Mama, she even insisted that she could do it there, but we felt it was more for the fact that by having the party there, the backyard would be mowed, and so she would take advantage of having the place cleaner. The woman may be old, but wise at the end of the day. I talked a lot with my cousins about what would happen, and they told me that the best option was to wait for nature to take its course. Well, that is, wait for Mama to kick the bucket. so we could get the deeds to the house, and I know it sounds cruel, but it's the best thing that we can do. The thing is, Ferguson will lose interest in it, and I doubt very much that we'll manage to find a good offer as one that he's already made. One of my cousins even came up with the idea of unliving Mama. Yeah, although that's a very off-color joke, I know more than one fantasized that that day would come, when we could finally have the house. But now I ask, is it wrong for us to behave like this? I mean, the whole family's being driven by a purely monetary interest, without considering that the house has been with us for, I don't know, more than a century? If we put it into a romantic aspect, it's sad. But that's how the world works, and if we can't take advantage of it, good for us. I don't think that after this situation, many will feel like talking to Mama anymore. Taking our stuff out is a symbol to tell her, sorry, old lady, we don't want to have anything to do with you. And I wonder if she'll be affected by this new loneliness. If she did not with her sisters, I doubt very much that we're on the same wavelength. Anyways, I'll update you guys. Update number 2, 3 months later. Well. If you only knew the change of events that we had in such a short time, and all coming from the cause of the family woes. Mama wrote me about a week ago, saying that she wanted to talk to me. It was the first time I've heard from her directly in quite a while, as I told you. Everybody lost track of her after the problem, with the house happening and whatnot. She asked me to visit her for something. And from the beginning, I thought it was to ask me for a favor or something like that, but she just assured me no. And like a fool, I believed her. And that if possible, I should come the next day. Well, as I don't like her bossing me around, I told her it's going to be a few days. After a little discussion, as usual with her, we arranged a visit, where she received me without coffee or even a glass of water. Despite the fact that I'd lived there for so many years, the house had a very powerful smell, of storage. It was as if upon entering you were greeted by a row of dusty house film. It was almost impressive how dilapidated the house looked from the last time the family was there. She invited me in and got right to the point. Look, I know some things have happened since the last time we spoke, but I plan to at least enforce the decision I've made. What do I mean? Well, you guys got me so upset about selling the house that I decided to do something for myself. I'm going to renovate it. I want to put in new wood, new varnish, remove many of the old decorations and buy some new ones. Oh, and I'd like to be able to put the greenhouse station back into circulation. I feel I can get a few extra dollars out of it. Also, I want to modify the roof, since it's no lie when I say it's going to fall on my head one of these days. Other than that, it would be nice to put one of those movable chairs on the stairs to serve as an elevator for me. These legs of mine are killing me, and I have to sleep in the lower room because I can't stand the pain of going up more than 5 steps. Did you know that the other day it took me almost half an hour to go up and down to the 2nd floor? No, of course you wouldn't know that, because you never call her right. That phone of mine already looks like an ornament. Only Lois and her boys ever write to me. And they make video calls. What bad video calls? Everything's blurry and the internet connection is lousy. She starts telling me so much, but so many things about the house, about her. And it seemed a little rude to have to interrupt an elderly woman. But I had to, because really it's been about half an hour since she started talking. And frankly, I just seriously did not want it to get very late. When I remarked that it was getting dark, she took it as a cue to continue with another part of the conversation, saying, yes, the lights have to be fixed too, because, the lighting system, it looks like I'm living in a cave after 8 o'clock at night. Blah, blah, blah. Actually, with a lot of pain, I had to stop her and ask her why I was there, and what she said. Oh, I thought you knew. It was for you and your friends to help me with those repairs. The ones in the construction business. I had to work up the courage not to correct her so rudely. I told her that my job was with a construction company and that those friends were actually my work colleagues.
I asked her for more details and asked if she had enough money to cover all the demands that she was telling me, since there were many, and by the looks of it, they were quite expensive. What she said to me made me burst into a fit of laughter and rang through the house. "Money? Can't you do those small repairs I told about?" Small? The woman was talking to me about basically creating a new house from scratch, guys. Changing everything from the walls to the ceramics to the woodwork, expecting me to put almost 30 workers to do something out of goodwill. Like eat charity, I guess. I laughed quite a bit and she scolded me for that. But I told Mama that was impossible since it was such a high expense. She herself said that she was going to buy new decorations with some money that she had. So I asked her about the money. She told me that it was a retirement compensation, but it was not enough to remodel everything. And she thought that asking me for it would be more than enough to get her dream house for free. The only justification she gave me for being able to help her was because, quote, I was basically her son since she was the one who raised me and gave me a roof over my head. But I told her that was not the case. She should know what she caused a few months ago for the whole family. I mean, how we lost a golden opportunity because of her, and how ironically accepting that offer could have made her home from scratch, keeping most of the money Mr. Ferguson offered us. She's to no one's surprise getting upset. She scolded me and started arguing as well, calling me ungrateful. That after the solemn promise she made to my mother to take care of me. This was how I was repaying her. I told her that she was not the only one who raised me, but that my other grandmothers were there for me too, to help me and value me unlike her, who only cared about her selfish interest. And now, after she let the whole family down, she has the nerve to ask for things for free. But I did not decide to just stand there. No, I told her. Sure, with all the pleasure in the world we can help you, but for that we need better machinery. And pay the guys for the whole day, and I could give you that with the money that I would have got from the sale of the land. But unfortunately we don't have enough of a budget, so sorry, not sorry. She looked at me with the most hateful of faces anybody could have had. She told me to leave and not to come back. So I told her that she had only two choices left. Either sell the house to somebody else since Ferguson's offer had already expired, or just die there. Well, she went silent, reflecting on everything that's happened. Not every day somebody from your family says something so powerful to you. She told me that she was going to sue me, that she was going to get the lawyers to throw the biggest lawsuit in the world at me, and I told her that if she had the contact book on the second floor, then I could sleep soundly that night. Well, I ask you, dear readers, was what I said wrong? I feel that it was not. I've already told some of my cousins and some of my uncles, and they agree with me. One of them even said, "Phew, finally someone stands up against that woman, bravo, boy." And he starts to toast me with wine. You could see the resentment that they all had towards her, but I, on the other hand, I felt somewhat relieved to be able to take revenge on her. You know, her stubbornness cost me and the rest of the family and herself dearly. Maybe this way, she can repent for all that it cost us and have more time to be at peace with herself. I left with my head held high, feeling, that people get what they deserve after a lifetime of complaining and inconveniencing others. As much as it pains me to see an older woman suffer inside the house, I do have to remind myself now and then that she was the one who condemned herself to be in that coffin that she's in for the rest of her life. Final update. 1 year later. Wow, it looks like it was a whole life ago when I used to write here. How you guys been? Oh, on my side, I came to tell you the end of the story of my dearest mama. The last time I wrote you, I told you that she shamelessly asked me to fix her house together with my colleagues at the company where I work because I told her what I told her, and she did not have a good time. She swore that I was going to help her all because of the obligation or pity that I was going to have for her. Well, she's wrong. For days she tried to communicate with me either directly or indirectly with the help of family members, but when I told them about what she told me, they all agreed that she was just a freeloader. Even the part of the family who lives on the other side of the country said that Mama has reached a new limit. But as they say, to each one will come his or her reward or punishment. And for Mama, It was the falling ceiling. Ironic. Because it was that she said this was a lifetime ago, that the ceiling above her was going to fall, and whose fault was it? She said ours for having removed things that made the space more stable. She was accusing us of something that happened months ago and that she knew for a fact was her fault. I didn't even bother to talk to my colleagues, as such an offer would be serious mockery to us. And I'm 100% sure that she's suffering right now, because without the roof, she had to rely on some neighbors to cover the empty rooms, having to cover them with plastic and sheets. It's sad, because that was the room for many of us in the family, but she cries about it. And I haven't told you about what she did. She called up Mr. Ferguson, which has been dubbed the most awkward phone call of the year. She called him up to ask about the offer on the space that he wants to buy, and well, he told her that he's already bought other territories, but that he, had been done at the time, and he would have very, very possibly increased the offer, and it would have been even better for us if I didn't say no. Mama no longer had a face to look me in the face. That's why she decided to give the territory to the state. Ended up giving her compensation and a small amount of money that was not even enough for a small motorcycle. If we can learn anything from this story, guys, it's, analyze decisions carefully and think about what's best not only for you, but for everyone around you. Mama surely learned it very well. Now living in a small house on the outskirts of the city, farther away from where she was, with only one floor and ceramics being a fourth-rate detail. If you ever read this, Mama, I want you to know that I love you. But you were the one who got yourself into this big old disaster.
So guys, today's story, it was heart-touching. There was a lot of things going on with it. I do want to ask you guys one simple question. Do you agree with the grandmother of today's story who simply didn't want to sell it? Well, she wanted to die in that home. She wanted everyone just to realize, hey, this is where we grew up. But at the same time, I can see everyone else's perspective, and I don't necessarily think that they were greedy. A lot of the comments were pointing out that they're greedy, they just want the money, and they don't care about Grandma's feelings. But they have to realize also the house was falling apart. They were desperately in need of money, and this could have bought Grandma a brand new apartment. So I do want to know your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. Let's talk about it down below in the comment section, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on today's video. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate these stories every day, and if you guys want to be a part of these daily readings, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you once again for joining me. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course remember, this is a really cruel world, so whenever you can be kind, it's probably the best option. It's cool to be kind. See ya.